Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe if you enjoy our content, or you can find us anywhere you get your podcast from. I'm your host, Nick Belsky, joined as always by Nick Horwat, and we do have a really good show for you today, but we will kick things off by celebrating the life and legacy of former Pittsburgh Penguins general manager Ray Shero, who passed away at the age of 62 yesterday. So we will talk about him, talk about some of his best moves as general manager of the Penguins, and all in all, just celebrate a terrific, 30-year career in the National Hockey League and a terrific life, as you've seen from the outpouring of messages and stories about Shero over the past 24 hours. We'll continue the episode by discussing Sidney Crosby because he had a very rare public appearance last night. And if you missed it, we'll talk about that and also discuss what's left for him in the final 3 games of this season. And we'll close out this episode with the first 2 Tip of the Ice-Burgh End-of-Season Awards. Let's get this started on the Tip of the Ice-Burgh. And let's kick things off with, of course, the unfortunate news that we heard yesterday. Ray Shero passes away at the age of 62 years old. He spent over 30 seasons in the National Hockey League as a general manager, as a front office advisor, pretty much all things connected to hockey operations over the past 30 years. He was the Penguins general manager from 2006 to 2014. Obviously, as you stated yesterday on Twitter, the architect of the 2009 Stanley Cup championship team. He was the general manager of the year from the Pittsburgh Penguins in the 2012-13 season, and he's also previously worked with the Senators, the Predators, the Devils, and most recently, the Minnesota Wild and their general manager, Billy Guerin. So before we say anything else, obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to his family and all who were close to him in the hockey world.
Absolutely. It was a shocking announcement to hear yesterday. I just don't know any of the details of it. It just kind of hit like a brick a little bit. One of those names you just don't expect to hear about that soon, but tough loss for the entire hockey world. Obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins family and every other team that he was a part of, and the Shero family in general, which is, pretty well known around the hockey world. So tough loss overall. Like I said, the 2009 just doesn't happen without him. Heck, the 2008 run doesn't happen without him. And the subsequent years following don't. The groundwork isn't laid without him. So crucial piece to the Penguins organization and their history. Just a tough loss overall.
Yeah, now I've seen a lot of people mention 2009. You just mentioned 2008. I think people need to remember his fingerprints are all over that 2016 and 2017 back-to-back championship team as well. And we'll talk about, trades or moves that stick out the most with Ray Shero, and there were plenty of them, but I think the one that not enough people talk about is that trade of Jordan Staal to Carolina. You get Brandon Sutter back, and no, he didn't live up to expectations because you wanted him to be the Jordan Staal replacement, and I think that might have been unfair expectations placed on the shoulders of Brandon Sutter. You get a first-round pick, which is also great. Unfortunately, that turns into Derek Pouliot, who also didn't work out in Pittsburgh long-term. But you know who did? Brian frickin' Dumoulin. The fact that he was part of that trade, and I think that's something when you look at these trades is on a couple of occasions, it wasn't always the headline name that ended up being the best piece for the Penguins, and that is something that you have to, tip your cap to Shero and obviously everybody that was working alongside him during those years. But Brian Dumoulin was one of the most pivotal pieces to the Penguins' back-to-back cup runs and really their success of the late 2010s. And he came over as a throw-in, I guess you could consider on the outside looking in that Jordan Staal trade.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very underrated decision, an underrated choice for, a memorable trade from Ray Shero. I really enjoy that pick because, again, it never is the main pieces of trades that work out. Or in that sort of sense, because the trade that I came up with for this little exercise was the Marian Hossa trade. Not so much in the way that it worked, because you could say what you will about it working or not working with Marian Hossa in Pittsburgh, but the way Pascal Dupuis ended up being a Penguins lifer essentially, and wasn't the main portion of that trade. Nothing against Colby Armstrong, by the way. He's a great dude, but
he came back. He came back.
He came back, and he's a classic Penguin now. But just that trade always comes to mind for not only that playoff run in general. And 08 was so it felt natural that the Penguins were there, that they were doing the thing that early on. And obviously with what Pascal Dubuis did for the rest of his career, but also it really felt like the first time the Penguins stamped their foot down and said, we are a legitimate organization now. Yeah, they had that brief stint in 07 in the playoffs where they got bounced in the first round, but that next year they're rolling along and they wanted to finally make their statement that they are here to be the real deal, and ended up being for the next nearly 2 decades. So it all kind of started with that trade. It feels like the Penguins were there to be a powerhouse. Like I said, Hossa didn't last, but it was the sign. It was the first sign of here they come. They're not going anywhere until 2022.
Yeah, now here's the thing with Hossa too. It's not like he didn't work out. Marian Hossa was phenomenal with the Penguins, and he would have worked out long term if he wanted to come back. Instead, he wanted to go ring chasing, and he went to the Detroit Red Wings, and we saw how that worked out for him. Now, eventually he got it with the Chicago Blackhawks, but it's not like it wasn't a fit with Marian Hossa. We've seen that from really every general manager everywhere. I mean, look no further than this year with Eric Tulsky bringing in Mikko Rantanen. Just because you bring in a star doesn't mean it's going to fit. And it not only fit for that run and almost got the Penguins their first Stanley Cup in over a decade, but it would have probably, I mean, do you think if they would have retained Hossa, they would have gone on to win the Cup in 09? I think there still would have been a great chance. And I think there would have been a great chance that they would have been able to continue to go for cups in 2010, 2011, despite what we know now about what happened with Sidney Crosby. I think having Hossa there would also have been great. And that's the thing, is like, it wasn't Ray Shero that didn't bring Marian Hossa back. It was Marian Hossa that didn't bring Marian Hossa back. Now, outside of those two moves, I think you look at the 2009 season and then you look at the 2012-13 season, and that was just so exciting for Penguins fans, because in 09, you also get the Kunitz and Tangradi for Ryan Whitney trade, which, again, at the time when that trade happened, everybody said, oh man, Ryan Whitney's been a pretty good blue liner for the Penguins. He's pretty solid. He's pretty stout. But you bring in Chris Kunitz, who's just a serial winner, just like Sidney Crosby, and he ends up being Mount Rushmore of Sidney Crosby line mates for his entire career. And then the Bill Guerin trade is one that I don't see a lot of people talking about. Obviously, Guerin is talking about everything that Ray Shero did for him post-playing career, but bringing him in as part of that 2009 team, knowing that they needed a veteran presence in that top six and bringing in the perfect guy to be that, and Billy Guerin, I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. He pushed all the right buttons, did Ray Shero, in that 2009 season. And honestly, I know 2013 playoffs didn't turn out well. We all know how the Eastern Conference Finals went, but man, was it fun to see Jarome Iginla in a Penguins uniform.
That's another one, too. That one was another huge one. That playoff run, it didn't finish or end the way everyone would have hoped, but that was another extremely fun playoff run, an extremely fun team. Just Ray Shero putting all the cards on the table for not only Iginla, but you could throw Doug Murray in there. You could throw Brendan Morrow in there. And I forget if that was the year they grabbed UC Jokinen or if he was already around, but it was that
I
team.
Juicy J. I think that was around the same time.
It was around the same time, but that team was so much fun to watch. And that was, again, it wasn't the most pristine or prestigious era of the Penguins, but there was just something alluring about it. I mean, we were in high school. It was a bit of a different time probably for us in our lives, and watching that team in particular, with the Brooks Orpik overtime goal against the Islanders, to that run up until the Boston series with Vokun being a folk hero. It was just fun. I mean, again, it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but just an extremely entertaining team.
Yeah, so rest in peace to Ray Shero, the architect of, again, we mentioned 2009. We mentioned he has his fingerprints in 2016 and 17, but all in all, for us on this show, he was the architect of the first successful Penguins run of our lifetimes that we got to witness. So for that, we are obviously eternally grateful. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to his family and all of his friends. Let's continue this episode by talking a little bit about a player that also had a lot to say about Ray Shero, and that's Sidney Crosby. Now, yesterday was a tough day for everyone, But I think seeing Sidney Crosby at the end of it, bookending the day with Sidney Crosby, lifted the spirits a little bit of the city of Pittsburgh. Last night, he appeared on Pat McAfee's Big Night at PPG Paints Arena, and we saw the absolute Pittsburgh sports pantheon of greats for this century. Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Kris Letang joined Paul Skeens and Big Ben Roethlisberger on the stage to close out that show. First and foremost, Torwad, I know you watched it. We were texting back and forth. I'll say this. It didn't hit as much as you would have hoped it to hit. I think it kind of likened itself to the Oscars, where if you sat down and you watched it fully last night, there were some great moments. There were some phenomenal moments. But if you watched it on your phone, clip-wise, through the internet, during your morning constitutional, you probably experienced just as much joy watching it.
Yeah, it was certainly, if you were there in the moment watching it, if you're there in person, I bet it was a great time because, first of all, being in person for a lot of things is usually better. Mm-hmm. But there was something about it that felt like it was just kind of dragging. And to be expected whenever you have to do a couple of set changes, you kind of need to raise and drop that big thing down to kind of cover everything. It was a WWE production, and they know quite a bit about things that can drag and can just last a long time. But for what it's worth, it was just a great night for Pittsburgh sports. Pat McAfee, good on him for doing the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Certain bits were just a bit, really, what are we doing here? Like, honestly, the sumo wrestling bit was saved by Shane Gillis and Shane Gillis alone. I walked my dogs during that one, actually. So I came back, but Shane Gillis afterwards was hilarious. So, and he really put things back on track a bit. And then you're right, you put it correctly, the pantheon of Pittsburgh athletes from this past generation. He had everyone going, Pat did. Who's coming out next?
Not only who's coming out next, but he said when Roethlisberger was the only one on the stage, yes. He says the next great one, and he doesn't say in Pittsburgh. He doesn't say as far as Pittsburgh athletes. He just says the next great one, which everybody thought he's alluding to, the next great Steelers quarterback, which, obviously everybody is talking about Aaron Rodgers. But instead, I think people were pretty happy that it was Paul Skeens coming out nonetheless. But I think there were two things that I noticed before we talk about what Sidney Crosby did, which is just peak Sidney Crosby, and what else did you expect? But Paul Skeens seeing a Pittsburgh, because that was a Pittsburgh sports crowd. Yeah, there were some people, including the guy that won $2 million, that were not Pittsburgh fans in that crowd. But for the most part, those were Steelers fans. Those were Penguins fans. Those were Pirates fans. So Paul Skeens getting the opportunity to see what the city is like when all the sports fans come out for a singular cause, you could tell he looked around. He's like, all right, this is what I want. Like, this is what it could be at PNC. This is what I was talking about a couple of months ago when my quotes got blown up all over the place. Not only that, Crosby coming out and seeing this building probably more full than he has seen it over the past year, and knowing the time of year and simply saying, and it looked like he was close to tears, man, I really wish we were gearing up for some playoffs in a couple weeks. That one, I mean, to me, I was just like, oh my God, they need capital NEED _ italicized. They need to get back there because this guy, once he gets into the playoffs again, is going to go absolutely berserk.
Yeah, he's in desperate need of another playoff run to really just, after some time off, after some short seasons compared to the last 16, see what he can get to. Paul Skeens coming out, like you said, like those quotes he had just a week ago almost now, just we need to be better. He can see what this city can bring. Everyone has listened, and everyone's down on the Pirates right now, including me. It's starting to feel a little gross being a Pirate fan, but again, conversation for a different podcast and a different day. But Paul Skeens is right when he says, it is on the players to be better. They do need better players, but we'll get there. And seeing the reception that comes out for guys like him. Pittsburgh fans are smart. They know that this team's not good, but they know he is phenomenal.
Special.
And and is going to be special. The way Pittsburgh fans come out for one of the greatest in Ben Roethlisberger and, still support him even a few years removed. And the way that we sat here and discussed the idea of Kris Letang getting traded at some point, the idea of Evgeny Malkin's career coming to an end. They still cheered loud for those two, and it is a sports town. I think even Sid said it himself. It's the greatest sports town to play in, and give this fan base and get that player a playoff run, for God's sakes. The team, the player, and the fan base could use it, and it would just be a nice little cleansing of what these last few seasons have been, and God only knows what this summer is going to be at PNC Park.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that one. Now, the reason they were out there was because each of the big three, Big Ben, Paul Skeens, and Sidney Crosby, had to throw a football. I don't know. I would say it was probably 25, 30 yards. I mean, it might have looked longer because it was on TV, but they had to throw a football into I'm not going to say what it is because this is a family show, but
a ring.
Into a ring. Sure.
Into a target.
A target. Best word to use. But throwing it into a target, each throw worth $1 million. Now, Paul Skeens goes up there. This guy was NL Rookie of the Year. This guy throws a football as part of his baseball warm-up every single game. There were, as recently as 24 hours prior to this, there were people clipping his warm-up routine and saying, maybe he should be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He goes out and he goes 0 for 2. And listen, he's young. This is some new stuff for him. That's a bigger crowd than he's seen in Pittsburgh throughout his entire year here. So we won't begrudge him for that. He'll get another opportunity. But then Sidney Crosby steps up to the plate and says, you know what? I've hit home runs at PNC Park. I've won Stanley Cups. As Pat McAfee said, we're standing underneath banners that you put here. And then, of course, he nails the shot. Of course, he nails the shot and puts the pot at $1 million. Big Ben hits it on the first try because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, so you would hope that he would have hit it. And then all of a sudden, $2 million goes to a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I mean, what is that?
I'm not mad at it because they did do a really cool thing with the random generator for
don't call
selecting those winners. Random number generator. That's what it was. That was a lot of fun. I did enjoy that aspect quite a bit. And of course, Sidney Crosby doing Sidney Crosby things, just nails it first try. No hesitation. Didn't even look like he was hesitating at all or finding a way to stumble. Just walked up, found the line. Okay, here you go. Bang. Next.
And then just laughed.
Exactly.
He just laughed because he's like, yeah, of course I hit it. And then even Letang said, are you surprised that he hit it? No, because he's Sid. He does everything well.
Yeah. Gino, did you know he was going to do this? Yes. Thank you. Man, a few words. What else would anyone expect? I mean, Paul Skeens, I forgot about the football warm-up part of that. That's really interesting now. And as I said, he just put a splinker on it. It happens. Force of habit. He was trying to strike the guy out.
Listen, he paints the corners for a living. Did you think he was going to throw it right down the gut? Nah, that's not going to happen. So, no shade thrown to Paul Skeens, but also Sidney Crosby. What can't this guy do? Right? I mean, in a year where the Penguins have been as bad as they have been since he was 18 years old, he continues to break records. He continues to draw eyeballs. He had all those memorable moments at the Four Nations and right at the tail end of this season that on the ice, you can tell has been not easy for a guy who is a serial winner and the ultimate competitor to be 7th worst team in the league right now. He can still go out there and create memories and create moments for Pittsburgh sports fans. And I think that's just another reason to add on to the extremely long list of reasons that Sidney Crosby has been everything that he was billed to be when he was drafted here all 20 years ago. Now, before we move over to the end of the season awards, there's 3 games left in the Penguins season. Sid is 3 points shy of 90. I was asked this yesterday on Tip of the Ice-Burgh Live, and I wanted to pose the question to you. Do you think he gets to the 90-point plateau for a 3rd consecutive season?
I think he can. I mean, he had that point streak just end recently of however many games it was.
It was 11, and then he missed one. He didn't score against Chicago in the first game. Then he scored in the second game. So
you can't deny a guy like Sidney Crosby with 3 games left. I mean, when you average over a point per game, you expect that's just kind of what you expect. So I would say he does it because at this point, when the Penguins don't have much to lose, not much to play for, why not go out, play a little more free? Against I know the last game's the Capitals. I said the Islanders last time. It's not the Islanders.
Devils on Friday, then Boston and the Caps. Yeah.
I mean, I could see it. Yeah, I think he does it. Sure, those are 2 playoff teams, but I mean, he could put 3 up against this Boston Bruins team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when's the last time he's faced Boston without Brad Marchand or Patrice Bergeron?
Never. I don't think he ever has.
I mean, you'd have to go back and look through, but
unless they've both been injured. I know because Marchand started his career, or not Marchand. Bergeron started his career before Crosby, so that's an automatic. He was there already, and then Marchand just left. So unless there's an ironic game in there where those 2 weren't playing and Sid was, or vice whatever, I don't know if it's ever happened. So yeah. That'd be a fun thing to dig for if you have a couple hours on of your time.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird atmosphere because, again, I'm not used to Boston without Bergeron and Marchand. Shoot, it was weird whenever they played Boston without Chara for the very first time. So yeah. It'll be a strange scene at PPG Paints Arena. Now, I mentioned this would be 3 consecutive 90-point seasons if he can pull it off, which I agree. I believe he will. It would also be his 9th of his career, which is kind of crazy when you consider the fact that 3 of the 9 are coming at the ages of 35, 36, and 37 years old. The guy just ages like fine wine. And like we've said this entire segment, what can't Sidney Crosby do?
Exactly. This podcast is full of Sidney Crosby praises. There are going to be plenty of more in the future.
1,000%.
Just how much more could we say? No one's shocked about the football throw. No one's shocked that he's putting up these kind of numbers at the age of 37. It's all very run of the mill at this point for him, is it not?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 37, Mario Lemieux had 91. So if he could even get that extra point there, or maybe extra 2 points there, then it just, again, goes to Sidney Crosby continuing to build his legacy as I try to filibuster while I pull up Mario Lemieux's hockey reference page.
Quickly,
at 37, he had 91 points. So that's what he's 4 away from catching what Lemieux did at the age of 37. Now, after that, Lemieux obviously didn't play very much. We expect Crosby to, so he will have a much better 38-year-old season than Le Magnifique. But again, you look at Sid, he just continues to amaze day in and day out. Let's close out this episode with our Tip of the Ice-Burgh End-of-Season Awards. Part 1, we're going to have a 3-part series of these. 2 awards each part. Of course, the next one's coming next Tuesday and Thursday on those episodes. But today, we're going to kick things off with the Team Vezina. And the way this is going to work, we put out this award in a poll fashion with the nominees on our YouTube channel at Tip of the Ice-Burgh in the posts section. You guys voted. We have your winner. There's 2 of us here, so what we're going to say is majority wins. But if there is a tie, say for Vezina, there's 3 options. If all 3 of us pick a different one, which I highly doubt, then the tie goes to the listeners because we always appreciate the listeners. But let's start with Team Vezina. The listeners say Alex Nedeljkovic deserves the Team Vezina this year. 59% of the vote goes to Ned. Tristan, Jarry, and Joel Blomqvist actually split the remaining vote at 20% apiece. Horwat, who would you put your vote in? Who would you cast your vote for Team Vezina this season?
Listen, I hate to be this person immediately off the jump as the first award we're doing. None of these 3. I went off the board, and I apologize to everyone for going off the board. Sergei Murashov.
Wow, the guy that has not played a singular game.
Correct, because
at the NHL level.
Yes, exactly. And the reason is because he's exceeded expectations so quickly. Sure, he hasn't played at the NHL level. Sure, we don't know what he can do at the NHL level. We know it was a disaster of a season from Jarry. We know Nedeljkovic had an okay year, but really wasn't himself from last year. And we know Blomqvist, I don't want to say fell short of expectations, but was kind of thrown to the wolves pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to do the pick, I'd say him. But the way Sergei Murashov came in and immediately was essentially undefeated everywhere he has played this year, I just think he's exceeded expectations and kind of falls in as a bit more deserving as this award goes for the Penguins organization.
Yeah, now you're thinking along the same lines as a lot of the listeners. If you go to the comments on that poll on our YouTube channel, Aiden says, since no goaltender really deserves this, give it to Noel Acciari because he had over 100 block shots.
There you go. I like that.
Rick said, if Dubas can trade Jarry in the offseason, give him the award. And Iconicer said, give it to the goalie equipment manager.
Also
So
good.
you're not alone in trying to go off the board with this one, but I'll stay on the board simply because those are the options that we chose here. And I will talk about, you look at Joel Blomqvist. A lot of people are burying this kid. Don't. You mentioned it. He was playing behind a really bad defense, and also probably earlier than he probably should have.
Yep.
Like, he had a phenomenal season last year. He didn't have a chance to really extend that into the playoffs because the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins lost in 2 straight games. But I think that there's still more to be had with this kid. Now, is everybody more excited about Sergei Muratov? Yes, people are. And I understand the reasoning behind it because he has been electric this year. But let's not forget that goaltending is one voodoo and development is not linear. It's the two phrases that we say the most on this show. So do not, and I'm just pleading, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm begging you. I'm giving you just an option here. Don't bury this kid yet because there is still a bright future potentially ahead for Joel Blomqvist. As far as Tristan Jarry is concerned, I can't give it to him on the principle that he's been sent to the AHL twice this year. But I will say the Penguins' 2 best stretches of this season, he was the goaltender.
Yeah.
You go back to November to December, that stretch from Thanksgiving to Christmas, where the Penguins were one of the better teams in the NHL. Tristan Jarry was 7-2-1. Now, I understand. He had a 3.0 goals against average, which is not great. He had an .898 save percentage, which is not great, yet still above league average this year. The league average save percentage I found today, according to Hockey Reference, is like .895.
Oh, goodness.
So, but that is, again, that stretch, Tristan Jarry's in net. He's doing what it takes to win. It's exactly what we saw from Alex Nedeljkovic late last season. And then recently, since being recalled, Tristan Jarry is 7-3-2 with a .258 goals against average and a .902 save percentage. So again, I'm not sitting out here saying that he has been way better than everybody has kind of mentioned, but I will say he also authored 2 of the better stretches for the Penguins as their starting netminder. So I give some respect to Tristan Jarry because despite the season that he's had, he has still been that guy at certain points. But I'm going to give it to Alex Nedeljkovic because he's been up here all year. Like, how do you give it to somebody who got sent down twice, right? You just can't. So I'll agree with the listenership. I'll give it to Alex Nedeljkovic, and that gives him the tie-breaking vote and makes him the award winner of the 2025 Penguins Vezina Award.
I'd assume that's back-to-back. I mean, I don't know who we would have given it to last year.
At the end of last season, I mean, Magnus Hellberg, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, goodness. Maybe I joked around and said Blomqvist last year because his last season was really good. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go back and listen. So
fair enough. Let's move over to the final award of today, which is going to be the, quote, Rookie of the Year for the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is in our accordance because the Penguins haven't had rookies for a long time. When we do these awards, this is best first-year Penguin. So rookie to the Penguins organization. The listeners have spoken, Horwat, and they say Phil Tomasino is the rookie of the year for the Penguins. Matt Grzelcyk had 30% of the vote in second place. Blake Lizotte had 17% of the vote in third place. And we did put other because some people might want to say Rutger McGroarty because they've liked what they've seen. I thought some people might want to put Ville Koivunen because they've liked what they've seen, even though they've only played like 3 or 4 games. 2% said other, and nobody commented below. So again, we're going to throw your percentages out because you didn't speak up. But Horwat, between these 3 or maybe another, who do you take?
I will do another, and I will maybe fill in the blank for those 2% of the others and say the incoming Connors. Dewar and Timmins, mostly because I didn't have high expectations for them after the trade deadline. So immediately they surpassed them. But in their few games of 14 apiece here, 7 points from Connor Timmins and 6 from Connor Dewar, just overall have impressed me to the point of really, I did not see this coming. I don't know what I expected exactly. And they're both RFAs, if I'm remembering correctly. So, sure, that doesn't mean the Penguins have to keep them around, but it seems likely that they'll be here at least into next season. And I'm not totally mad at it anymore. I'll say, I mean, I wasn't totally mad at the first place, but I was a little curious for the decision making. But Kyle Dubas loves his guys, and I wouldn't be shocked to see these two in the opening night lineup next season on assumingly short deals. And then hopefully they continue this sort of pace of half of a point per game, which isn't bad.
Yeah, when the trade went down, initially they were literally throw-ins to help facilitate another trade.
Yeah.
Like the Penguins traded a 5th-round pick for both of these guys, and both of them should play NHL ice time pretty consistently next season. So you have to give Kyle Dubas credit for that one. But when they came in, I thought the same thing as you. I was like, all right, the Penguins at this stage of the season, they're just trying to, throw options at the wall, see if anything sticks out, see if anything could be moved forward to next season. And I think both of these guys have kind of answered in the affirmative for that one. Connor Dewar, I understand that he's probably out over his skis a little bit when he's playing second line minutes, even when he's playing significant third line minutes. But Connor Dewar is a very good fourth liner for any good team in this league. So if the Penguins can find a way to kind of figure out the top of their lineup and put Connor Dewar, Blake Lizotte, maybe Sam Poulin as your fourth line, that is a fourth line for a fairly good team, especially if Poulin can come up and actually transverse what he's learned at the AHL this year when he's started to learn, a different role in becoming that bottom six, bottom line type of player. So I really like what I've seen out of Connor Dewar. He's the exact mold of Blake Lizotte, and I've enjoyed Blake Lizotte so much so that I made him a nominee for this award. And Connor Timmins the same. I think he's somebody that you right now pencil in as the third pairing right side defenseman going into next season. We don't know what the blue line is going to look like, but I think Connor Timmins has proven that he deserves the opportunity to be a leader in the clubhouse for one of those spots. As far as this award is coming, I like Phil Tomasino. I have sung his praises more than pretty much anyone else in this market. I'm going to give him a close second. He's second on the team in game-winning goals, which is crazy. He was first for a while, and then Sidney Crosby has gone on like a 50-goal pace over the past 20 games to surpass him. And the thing that I didn't expect out of Phil Tomasino is he fit in well in a top six role. Similar to Dewar, he's probably best off as a third liner, but he can, if asked, play well in that second line role, play well with Evgeny Malkin, which we saw for a couple of weeks span there, where those two were meshing and clicking at a very high pace. So I really like what I've seen out of Phil Tomasino, but for my vote, which at this point, it's not going to make a difference because tie goes to the listeners, as we stated, my vote goes for Matt Grzelcyk. I'm with the 30% in this one. He is a major, major piece, all caps, to the revival of the power play. They went from 31st in the league last year to top 10 in the league perennially throughout this entire season. That is in large part due to Matt Grzelcyk. That is in large part due to the fact that they said, Erik Karlsson, no, that's not going to work on the top unit. Kris Letang, no, that's not going to work on the top unit. They can go pick out their wing in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but for the power play, we're going with the guy that was a healthy scratch for the Boston Bruins in the playoffs last year. The way that Matt Grzelcyk has reestablished himself at the NHL level is nothing shy of phenomenal. So the fact that he did that, the fact that he actually held his own with Erik Karlsson, when before Grzelcyk, the only player that could do anything of substance next to Karlsson was Marcus Pettersson, who was the team's best defensive defenseman. And then also you add on the fact that he's been much better defensively as time has gone on throughout the season. I got to give best first-year Penguin, rookie of the year, to Matt Grzelcyk in my eyes. Now, again, with that said, that's one vote Grzelcyk. That's one vote split between the Connors. And that is one vote Phil Tomasino. But the one vote that carries the most weight in these awards is you, the listeners. So, officially, the rookie of the year for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Philip Tomasino.
I'm not mad at that because I thought about him as well. I also would have said Grzelcyk myself, except we're going to just have to cut, copy, and paste everything you just said for when we discuss Norris later. You're welcome, everybody. There's a little teaser.
There's a teaser. Well, make sure you tune in next week because we're not only going to do the Norris, but that is Tuesday's episode where we will do the Norris Trophy winner for the Pittsburgh Penguins this season and also the most improved in season. So it might be a Grzelcyk sweep. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Tuesday. And of course, next Thursday, we will close out the Tip of the Ice-Burgh Awards with the Iron Penguin Award, which is not voted upon, which is earned for the Penguin that plays all 82 games. I think Matt Grzelcyk might be in the running for that one as well. So he might have a really good award season here on Tip of the Ice-Burgh. We will also do Unsung Hero next Thursday and Team MVP. Now, the Penguins have voted on that but we and you, the listeners, have not voted on that as of yet. So that's what's coming down the pike for Tip of the Iceberg. But what's coming down the pike for sports fans, it's Masters Week. And both of us very much so enjoy the sport of golf, watching it, playing it, all the above. Do you have a pick for Augusta National this week? Who wears the green jacket on Sunday evening?
Man, I'll say, I mean, Scotty Scheffler is always an easy pick. It's always up there. I want to see Brooks Koepka do well one of these times. I need him to get back on the train of just doing well because I like him a lot. As for my actual picks, I will always root for Victor Hovland because we share a music taste. If anyone knows the video I'm talking about, it's incredible. He listens to he's from, I forget the country now, Norway?
I think he's from Norway. Yeah.
Or one of those Nordic countries. And he listens to a lot of screamo death metal stuff in metalcore. And I appreciate that we share a portion of a music taste, and he's a golfer. So I always root for him and everything. But my actual pick for the Masters this year is going to be Ludwig Aberg.
Yeah.
He needs to break through at some point. He's been on the cusp so many times. It just feels like this is the time to do it. And the odds have him pretty well up there, pretty close to the top. So he's, not a deep cut pick, like I said, with Hovland or anyone like that. But Aberg's going to be a good face to watch, I think, this weekend.
It hurts my soul that Ricky Fowler's not playing again.
Yeah.
It does. But honestly, I get it. I understand it. Now, I will say this, Horwat. Your pick and my wife Kayla's pick are identical. My wife loves Ludwig Aberg for this week's Masters. So I like that pick from you. Now me, I'm picking fully heart. No brain, all heart, Rory McIlroy. I want to see him do it. I want to see him complete the Grand Slam. I want to see him finally take down Augusta National. And listen, 2 wins already on the year. He won at Pebble Beach. He won at the Players. Yeah. It's just fitting that he closes out that trifecta by winning at Augusta National. Now, of course, it's not a course that plays to his strengths, but you know what? He has way more strengths this year than he has in years past. He has rounded out his game, and even his daughter is hitting 50-foot putts on those greens at Augusta. So you know what? It is the year. It is the time, and I am going to be heartbroken when he doesn't win, but I am saying Rory McIlroy is the 2025 Masters champion.
Best of luck. It's a tough course for anyone. I mean, it's one of those tournaments that truly anyone could be in the running going into Saturday, Sunday. But the greats are pulled out of the woodwork on Sunday.
Exactly. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Tip of the Iceberg. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Remember, you can find us on YouTube by searching Tip of the Iceberg. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Or you can find us anywhere you get your podcast from. We'll see you guys next time.